Welcome, Gunrunner.
It's fair to say that there's a pretty big following for the Commodore Amiga computers in the retro gaming community, and indeed amongst the viewers of this very channel. This is very much backed up by the videos I've done on the format, with no less than 3 amazing facts episodes covering different Amiga iterations and one looking at amazing exclusives for the original version of the Amiga. So I'm sure that this follow-up video is one that a lot of my viewers have been waiting for. I'm not going to go into any real detail in this intro other than pointing out that this episode focuses on games for the 32-bit version of the system, with its much more powerful AGA chipset that we first got to see in 1992 with the launch of the Amiga A1200 and A4000, and was put into the spotlight even more by the release of the Amiga CD32 console the year after. If you want to know the history of the later Commodore computers and consoles, then I'll refer you to the aforementioned amazing facts episodes, which I'll link down in the description for people who haven't seen them. This video is all about the games, of course, and I actually found it much harder to find prime candidates than I have for most of my other videos. In fact, I was shocked just how few genuine exclusives the Amiga 1200 has. Even many of the games I thought qualified didn't, as they also got PC versions. I guess this says a lot about how the market was changing at this time, but that said, I still think I came up with a really good selection of different games, covering a wide variety of different genres. So sit back, grab yourself a cuppa and enjoy the show, so I proudly present 10 amazing Commodore Amiga AGA exclusives.
Dad, you'll never believe what I just got. The new Amiga CD32 games console. It's got the best games and it's twice as fast as any other console. Not only that, but it also plays normal CDs.
That's interesting.
Yeah, soon it'll have full motion video so you can watch movies and stuff.
Is that right? Maybe we should get one for the grandkids, eh, son?
Great idea, Dad.
The new Amiga CD32 available now at Dick Smith Electronics.
Around the time that the A1200 arrived on the market, fighting games had become all the rage. Firstly with the arrival of Street Fighter II, and then the huge amount of hype around the gory and realistic Mortal Kombat. Unfortunately, the Amiga wasn't well suited to such games, mainly because most people only had a one-button joystick. But that didn't stop people having a go with such games as Team 17's Body Blows, CD32 Packing Dangerous Streets, and indeed somewhat suspect ports of the 2 games I already mentioned. One of the better ones, which was also exclusive to AGA equipped Amigas, was Capital Punishment, a game that ultimately tried to mix together aspects of both Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat and just about pulled it off. This means 2D pixel driven graphics as opposed to digitised images, but going for a much more realistic look than the anime stylings of Capcom's game. This also involves quite a bit of blood and a surprising level of nudity too, seemingly trying to shock even more than Midway's game. You start by selecting from one of 4 fighters, and then you set out to rescue more, so beating enemies effectively unlocks more to choose from. The visuals are really impressive here, particularly the animated backdrops, and there is loads of great digitised speech too. Capital Punishment isn't quite console quality, but it's probably as good as you'll get on the Miggy. As far as Amiga AGA exclusives go, Guardian is probably the most famous of all, as it received glowing reviews upon release and was compared to games like Star Fox on the SNES and Cybermorph on the Atari Jaguar. Like those games, it's a 3D polygon driven shoot 'em up where you fly over a planet's surface taking out an alien invasion force who are trying to take out your bases. More like Cybermorph, this game is completely free roaming, as opposed to the fixed rail shooter mechanics of Star Fox. And this isn't just a great game, it's a great tech demo too, showing just what the AGA chipset can do in the right hands. Again, like the Atari title, there is a wide range of different power-ups you can bolt onto your craft, including shields and more powerful weaponry. Some people described the game as Defender in 3D, and there are certainly a lot of parallels with the Williams Electronics arcade classic, not just in the way you're trying to protect humanity from an unwelcome invasion, but also in the way Guardian presents a scanner in the info panel that you can use to track the enemies. This handy info block also tracks things like your energy, shields, weapons, and of course your score. I mentioned the impressive 3D visuals already, but I must also mention the excellent music too, that really adds to the hectic all-action nature of the game. Guardian is a bona fide Commodore classic. One genre that really started to come to the fore during the 32-bit era with the evolution of 3D graphics was the racing game. But with the Amiga unable to pull off the polygon pushing power needed for games like Ridge Racer and Daytona USA, developers Siltuna Software decided to look back to the previous console generation and specifically the excellent Mode 7 races we saw on the SNES, like F-Zero, Super Mario Kart and Street Racer. Extreme Racing very much reminded me of the latter of these in particular, as it features a very similar look indeed. You start by selecting a character, each of which has a different car, and then you head on out to the track and put your foot down. Each track has a different theme, for example beach or countryside, and they get gradually more difficult as the game goes on. You can collect power-ups in the track to help you get over the finish line, and each course presents its own unique hazards too. One of the best features of Extreme Racing, however, is the sheer amount of options that lets you customise the difficulty, design your own tracks, and link up with a second Amiga to provide 8-player gameplay, with split screens to maximise the real estate. The visuals here are excellent, with the AGA hardware doing a great job of faking those Mode 7 style effects. The audio is also fantastic too, with loads of great tunes. Extreme Racing is the best game of its type on the Amiga. You might be starting to notice a theme here, in terms of Amiga developers trying to cash in on the popular trends of the time and clone the big name games from the consoles of the era. And in Breathless we have another game trying to do just that, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you what the inspiration for this one was: the iconic Doom, the game credited with making the PC a serious gaming machine, and the one that finally tempted people away from the Amiga. Now, the FPS genre was one that somewhat suffered on the Amiga actually, which is the main reason why the PC was able to capture that computer games market as it did. We initially saw titles like Alien Breed 3D and Gloom that suffered from blocky visuals, poor frame rates and reduced gameplay windows, and then we finally got Breathless, widely regarded as the Amiga's first decent FPS. Okay, so you're going to need an upgraded and accelerated AGA Amiga to enjoy the game at its very best, but it's still more than playable on a stock A1200. The game is remarkably similar to Doom in both gameplay and the setting, but with alien cyborgs replacing the gruesome demons of the id Software game. You explore each base, blasting away the enemies, upgrading your weapon, and collecting useful things like ammo, medpacks and keys. If you're looking for a decent first-person shooter to play on your Amiga, then look no further. It's fair to say that the Amiga was no stranger to the RPG genre, with famous games like Dungeon Master, Eye of the Beholder and the Ultima games appearing on the platform. But what it did lack was examples of the ever popular JRPG genre. In yet another attempt to play the home consoles of the era at their own game, the Sperris legacy is clearly inspired by titles like The Legend of Zelda and Shining Force, with its top-down 2D perspective, fantasy-driven storyline and XP-focused combat system. Like most similar JRPGs of the era, the plot is some boring nonsense about an evil overlord who takes control of your kingdom, having killed some people close to you along the way, and it's your character's need to avenge their deaths and return the land to peace. As always, this means starting in your village before traversing the land en route to the enemy fortress for the final showdown. Along the way, you'll need to level up your hero by collecting treasure, battling enemies, picking up weapons, and speaking to people who can help you progress. All pretty standard stuff really. There's certainly nothing new or original about the Sperris legacy, but that's not to say that it's a bad game, because it most certainly isn't, which is why it's on this list. It might be wholly unoriginal, but everything it does do, it does really well, from the colourful visuals to the huge world it gives you to explore. The key genre that saw gamers move away from home computers and over to consoles was the rise of the mascot-driven platformer, especially games like Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario Bros. The Amiga especially did try to fight back on this front somewhat, with games like Zool, Super Frog and indeed this title, Marvin's Marvelous Adventure, which kept many people loyal to the platform. Whereas Zool was definitely trying to emulate the Sega Speed Demon, Marvin's Marvelous Adventure very much had its sights set on Nintendo's own hero, with its cute, colourful graphics, traditional platforming action, and cartoon-like worlds. There were lots of other features that will seem very familiar to Mario fans here too, like bashing blocks, eliminating enemies by jumping on them or chucking projectiles at them, collecting stars, grabbing power-ups, and using warps. Some levels have objectives that have to be cleared to complete them, so you can't enter the exit door. And there are loads of stages to discover here. This means that as well as your standard run and jump style platforming, there are also some light puzzle game style elements that usually involve moving things into place. The graphics are some of the best I've seen in an Amiga platformer, they literally ooze with colour, and the music suits the game perfectly. Those looking for a console like fix on their AGA MIGI will be in heaven. I always try to give a wide range of different genres in these videos, and that inevitably includes at least one sports game, but I'm betting that most people would have expected to see a snooker game here. But it's actually a sport I love, and one that translates particularly well to home computers. Now those who have followed Team 17 over the years, who are still making games in the present day of course, will no doubt remember the excellent arcade pool, which was released for both PC and Amiga in 1994. Well, as you might have already guessed, Arcade Snooker is basically a rework of that very game, but one that remains exclusive to the AGA version of the Amiga. You start off by going through the options, which includes things like base colour, friction level, aiming type and various sound options. Then you can choose what type of game you want to play, including speed potting, trick shots and tournament play. Once into the actual game you have even more options you can choose from, like the ability to do replays, bring up stats and save your game. Your view is your regular top-down look with a cue that appears when needed for lining up your shots. Visually the game is nothing special, but it still looks really nice. The audio is fantastic here though, especially the music by the always amazing Alistair Brimble. This is a strangely addictive little game. While this next one isn't that well known, I'd say it's my personal favourite from this list, and one of my favourite games on the AGA Amiga full stop. The best way to describe this awesome game is Chase HQ on a motorbike. Though this gives a good idea about what to expect, it also adds in quite a few elements from the Atari arcade classic Road Blasters too, especially in terms of its post-apocalyptic setting and the way you can shoot the enemy vehicles off the road. But it also borrows elements from lots of other games too, and references plenty more, as well as several movies for that matter, and it's nearly as fun spotting all the little Easter eggs as it is playing it. Like Chase HQ, each level here has to be completed within a time limit. You have to be careful not to shoot the civilian vehicles and only destroy the enemies. Destroying the bad guys earns you cash that can then be spent in a shop at the end of each level to upgrade your bike and repair any damage you've incurred. These upgrades don't just include things that improve the capabilities of your actual bike, like more powerful engines and better tyres, they also include new weapons too, which are arguably the most useful, as on later levels some of the enemies are very tough to destroy indeed. Black Viper has superb visuals with an amazing sense of speed, an incredible soundtrack and loads of great arcade style gameplay. After the release of Lemmings, there was a time when such games became very popular, as we also had the likes of the Humans, the Lost Vikings and Diggers. But by 1996 the craze for rescue based strategy puzzlers like these had died down. However, that didn't stop Apex Systems releasing Blobs for the Amiga 1200, a game with lots of similarities to the Psygnosis title. Rather than rodents, in this game you are guiding these chunks of green slime, as the title suggests, but they are every bit as dumb and need to be guided at every step. So just like Lemmings, this involves giving them instructions to perform in order to reach the exit. There are a lot less capabilities in this game though, as you can only do simple things like turn around, dig and extend, which helps you cross gaps. However, whereas in its more famous inspiration you are only tasked with getting a specific amount of your tribe into the exit, in Blobs you also have additional tasks too, such as destroying specific buildings or collecting crystals. Your mission is explained at the start of each level, where you are also shown a map of the stage you can examine to help plan your strategy. I was really surprised to learn that this game was programmed in Blitz Basic, as it looks and sounds great. It's every bit as addictive as Lemmings was, and so if you love that game, then Blob should be next on your shopping list.
Mission completed. Jump. Exit activated.
I usually try to save the best until last, and it's hard to argue against Banshee being the A1200's best exclusive. When you learn that it was developed by core design of Tomb Raider, Rick Dangerous and Thunderhawk fame, amongst many others, you know it's going to be something special, and it really is. Banshee is as close as you're going to get to a true arcade experience on your Amiga. This is an arcade-style vertically scrolling shoot 'em up that was clearly inspired by the likes of 1943, Flying Shark and Twin Cobra, as you fly your heavily armed aircraft over enemy territory, taking out both ground and air-based enemies. As you'd no doubt expect, each level ends in a boss fight, you collect power-ups as you go, and there are also special abilities you can pull off. In this case, loop the loops, just like 1942 and 1943. Perhaps the best feature of all though is the simultaneous 2-player mode, something you don't see in nearly enough Amiga shoot 'em ups. Another nice feature is the way you can shoot the power-ups to change their function before collecting them, something Core Design seem to have borrowed from Compile's many PC Engine shooters. Visually this game is beautiful, looking just as good as any similar console shooter of the age, and the sound effects and music are also terrific. If you own an AGA Amiga, then you absolutely have to own Banshee as well.
I never found out why he chose me to share his secret. Perhaps because we had similar dreams. But this was twice as fast. Twice as powerful as anything I'd ever thought possible. Though what that meant, I could never have foreseen. Incredible graphics and colors, so many colors. Our world would never be the same again.
And that rounds out my look at the 10 amazing AGA Amiga exclusives. But which games impressed you the most here? Or are there any games that you don't think were worthy of inclusion in this countdown? And do you have some suggestions of your own? We always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comments section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons and YouTube backers for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following people in particular for their much appreciated pledges: Paul Daniel, Mins, Dos Gamerman, Luke MC, Carl Olsen, Seth Robinson, Frosty, Mark Strickland, Kalimatorn, Trogdor the Burninator, Daniel Skoronsky, Ben P. Stein, Tabby Kitsune, David Maddox, Your Eyes Are Bleeding, Joe Casara, Classic Gamer 74, Bernard Santu, Peter Grantham, Noah Mann, and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now. You can get access to a host of extra content, including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights, and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.